T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, engines full power, and liftoff. Go SpaceX, go Starlink.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
Falcon 9 is pitching downrange, heading in a southeasterly trajectory. These views coming from the onboard cameras.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Everything looking good as the throttle down sequence begins
Falcon
on the Merlin
9 is
engines.
supersonic.
Soon be experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
MVAC, chill.
Less than 1 minute left in the burn of the first stage. Those Merlin engines producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Chill down is underway on the second stage Merlin vacuum engine. Now, more than 2 minutes into flight, we're approaching main engine cutoff on MECO. The 9 Merlin engines will shut down. They'll be followed by stage separation, ignition of the upper stage, and then shortly thereafter, jettison of the payload fairing.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
See the lights of California behind the engine bell. Fortunately, the brightness of the rocket tends to drown that out once it ignites. Coming up on fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there goes the two halves of the fairing, and you can see those Starlink satellites stacked on top of each other. Three and a half minutes into flight, everything appears to be going well. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the view from the first stage. And on the right-hand side is the second stage Merlin vacuum engine. It's already accelerated the upper stage to more than 9,000 kilometers an hour and is at an altitude of 122 kilometers. Meanwhile, the first stage continues to climb. It's approaching its apogee. See the speed gradually slowing down as it reaches the top of that arc that will take it to the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. And it appears to now be beginning its descent, having reached a maximum altitude of 114 kilometers. That's above the Kármán line, which is considered to be the boundary of space. You can see that velocity in the gauge at the bottom of the screen on the left-hand side starting to increase as gravity takes hold of the Falcon 9 and starts bringing it back to Earth. A very important event coming up will be the first stage entry burn that will occur according to the SpaceX timeline at around 6 minutes and 13 seconds. It's a 26-second burn starting with the center engine and then with the addition of 2 of the outer engines. And it's crucial to prevent the Falcon 9 from burning up as it starts to encounter the thicker layers of the atmosphere as it falls back to Earth.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Now 6 minutes into flight. That was a call that the first stage termination system.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there we see the start of the entry burn. That flight termination system not needed anymore, so that has been turned off. You can see in the graphic on the bottom left that the 3 engines are burning. This will slow the speed of the Falcon 9 dramatically.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
That burn, which lasted about 26 seconds, now complete. You can see that the speed is now dropping. The booster falling through about 25 kilometers in altitude. Meanwhile, the second stage is hovering around 150 kilometers in altitude as it approaches 19,000 kilometers per hour.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
That flight termination
system.
Flight termination system on the second stage is turned off. We're approaching the landing burn as the first stage slows to below the speed of sound.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
This is a brand new Falcon 9 booster.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Passing through a cloud deck. There's the drone ship.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And touchdown of booster 1100. Coming up on second stage cutoff.
MVAC shutdown.
There we go. Completion of that first burn.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And that call from SpaceX's ground controllers indicating the second stage has reached the required parking orbit for this mission. The Falcon 9 will coast for about 50 minutes or so before the deployment of the Starlink satellites. But before that, there is a very short 1 second burn of that second stage to circularize the orbit. So with everything looking good on this mission, we'll next take a look at the mission stats. This was the first flight of Falcon 9 Booster 1100. It's going to be difficult to get used to not starting the booster serial number with 10 something, but SpaceX has added 8 new boosters to its fleet this year. It's also continuing to fly its older boosters. This was the 568th Falcon 9 launch to date. The 151st Falcon 9 launch of 2025. It was the 169th SpaceX orbital launch in the last 365 days. That's an interesting way of looking at the SpaceX launch cadence. Just looking at the calendar year doesn't often give you a true sense of how the flight rate is picking up. SpaceX did reach 170 flights in 365 days earlier this month. So it's hovering around that point, standing ground as it were. But it had set the target of 170 missions during the calendar year 2025. So currently achieving that rate necessary to meet that goal. If not in the calendar year, they have at least done that in the 365-day period earlier this month. This was the 163rd SpaceX orbital launch from Slick 4 East and the 231st overall launch from that pad, including previous flights of Atlas and Titan rockets. Here's a look at the bar chart showing the number of launches per year since the Falcon 9 was introduced in 2010. Some recovery stats for you. This was the 164th landing on Of Course I Still Love You. As I mentioned earlier, that was the drone ship that saw the first successful landing of a Falcon 9 at sea. It was the 441st SpaceX drone ship landing. The 539th Falcon 9 booster landing at sea or on land. The 540th overall booster landing, including the recent landing of the New Glenn booster. Taking a look at our space industry stats. This was the 58th launch from California this year. The 160th launch from U.S. soil in 2025. And the 175th orbital launch from a U.S. rocket company. 276th global launch. And out of that, we've seen 6 orbital launch mishaps. So before we wrap up our coverage, just want to thank Deb Morfrey for a $10 super chat, thanking us for our show and saying they got a very clear view of ascent, second stage, and then boosted deorbit burn. So that's wonderful. Glad you got to see pretty much the entire sequence of events tonight. It's good that the weather was cooperating and there were clear views, it sounds like, up and down the coast. So the next launch coming up from SpaceX is looking like the Transporter 15 mission, another Vandenberg launch that's actually going to be a bit of a break for the launch crews at the Cape, which is very welcome, I'm sure, given the pace of launches recently and the fact it's the Thanksgiving holiday this week. So the next 2 launches might be coming out of the West Coast on either side of Thanksgiving. So be sure to join us on Wednesday for our coverage of that launch if it stays on track. I want to give a big thank you to our moderators in the chat, Jeff Hansen and Mark Otto, who've been keeping things civil and on topic. Also, thank you to Cumulus Granatus for us answering questions from people in the chat. So with that, I'll wish you a very good night, good morning, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.